There was a night I will never forget. Everything that I had worked for, everything that I had believed in, shattered in front of me. The time was around 1 in the morning and I couldn't sleep. But it never happened to me before. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, not in anger, not in tears, but in complete silence. A silence when no more questions come to your mind and there is no strength left in your heart. I wasn't just grieving a failure, I was grieving my own identity. The version of me I had spent years building didn't survive that night. But something strange happened. Out of the darkness came a question. What does this all mean? Not why did this happen to me, but what am I really chasing? What am I without these labels? Although that night I didn't find my answers, nor did my life change overnight. But I found the courage to start asking better questions. And that is precisely when I discovered philosophy. Not in a book, not in a classroom, but in the quietest, most painful moment of my life. I am Mohit, your MK, a writer, a seeker, and a student of Indian philosophy. And for over 10 years, I have been an aspiring author. Quite a long time to hold on to a dream, right? But it's not just stubbornness, it's what gives purpose and meaning to my life. And today, I want to talk to you about something that lives inside all of us, a quiet search for meaning. This video is not going to be a lecture, but a conversation about what philosophy really is and why it might be the missing piece you have been searching for all along. So first, what is philosophy? But before answering that question, let me ask you another question. What is that inherent quality in us that enables us to learn as we grow? Yes, we do have intelligence and cognizance, but what actually enables us to learn new things? When we were just children, how did we learn about new things? Simply by asking questions, right? We have this natural tendency to ask questions or be curious about our surrounding. Perhaps we would still be living in caves if it weren't for our natural tendency to ask questions. Because asking questions is the most raw process of gaining knowledge. Not only knowledge, it is the basis of philosophy. Philosophy literally translates to love for wisdom, and it is a sense of wonder for us. Today, philosophy might have been reduced to a subject, but my friends, philosophy is not just a subject. It is our freedom to ask questions about the very nature of reality. And you will be amazed to know that philosophy is the foundation of many subjects, including science itself. But we will come back to it later. There is a misconception that philosophy is for scholars with higher intellects. There is another prevailing misconception that philosophy is the subject of the privileged. Yes, it is true that most of the Western philosophers were aristocrats, but it's not true for the Eastern philosophy or particularly Indian philosophy. Because most of the Indian philosophers were simple ascetics or sadhus or those who had lived a renounced life. So friends, philosophy is not restricted to the privileged, it belongs to everyone who simply dares to ask a question. Another misconception that keeps people away from philosophy is that it is boring or it is impractical. But let me tell you this, my friends, philosophy is neither boring nor impractical. Take it from someone who has studied both philosophy and science. I myself had done bachelor's in science and pursued my master's in philosophy. And you might wonder why would someone do that? To be very honest, I had always been a curious child, and that curiosity was the sole reason I majored in science. But soon I realized that science did not have all the answers. And which is true, because science is limited by experience or perception. It's true that applied science have done wonders for us, but science as a whole cannot produce a complete picture before us. It is not the complete truth. Yes, science has many answers, but it does not have all the answers. And that bugged me big time. And it bothered me that despite the fact that science is experimental, yet there are a lot of assumptions or errors added to it to make it simply work. And thank God there was a possibility to switch from science to philosophy. So in my recent years of learnings in philosophy, I came to understand that philosophy is indeed the foundation of many disciplines. For example, science, psychology, ethical sciences, they are all the daughters of philosophy. The method applied sciences use to deduce scientific theories is simply the method of reasoning used in philosophy. Anyways, my objective here is not to demean any particular discipline or profession. My objective here is to help you understand that philosophy is not any out-of-the-world subject. It is something fundamental to our existence. There is a philosopher in all of us who know how to reflect. Philosophy tells us that if you have the right questions, then you shall have the answers. It is when we start asking the right questions, it is then we start solving our problems. So friends, let's try to address another concern that philosophy is impractical. Like I said before, if we ask the right questions, then we get the right answers to our problems. And this is where I believe philosophy can be put to practical use. How? Let's see. Let's take a modern problem at hand. Anxiety. What do you think causes anxiety? Perhaps we think too much or are worried about things that are not at all in our control. But how do you overcome that anxiety? Perhaps rewiring your brain that it doesn't matter. Perhaps by simply telling yourself that it is what it is. Or perhaps asking yourself why does it matter? Such questions to oneself help us gain perspective. And as we start to level up these questions, we slowly make our way to philosophical inquiry. And what is a philosophical inquiry? It is nothing but a simple question. For example, let me ask you this. In a world where we can buy anything, why are we still unhappy? Would you care to answer that within yourself? Or if you want, you can put it in the comments as well. But let me tell you what I think. In my opinion, happiness doesn't come from desire fulfillment. Because what we get from desire fulfillment is satisfaction. And satisfaction doesn't last. It might have happened to you as well. For example, you wanted to buy a new phone. But when were you more excited? Before buying the phone or after you have bought it? The answer is quite obvious, right? Yes, we get more excited while we are anticipating about the purchase. But when we get our hands on that purchase, although we are satisfied, but that satisfaction or excitement level starts to decrease drastically. This is the reason we are constantly after desire fulfillment, because it gives us satisfaction that is limited. So the answer should not be satisfaction, it should be contentment, because contentment is something that comes from within. So friends, this is the way philosophical inquiry actually works. And if done correctly, it can help us fight the modern demons such as anxiety, depression, overthinking and whatnot. Now let's have a look on some of the philosophical questions that are already inside of us. For instance, you are stuck in a situation wherein telling the truth might hurt a person's feeling or telling a lie may keep them from correcting their mistake. In such a scenario, you will ask yourself, should I lie to protect their feelings? Now this question is ethical and it falls within the scope of ethics in philosophy. Another important question that you can ask yourself or might have asked yourself is that, do we have a free will? Well, I don't know if we do or do not, but it does help us to dive deeper into our nature, the nature of existence and the nature of reality. And such questions are categorized into metaphysical questions because these questions transcend the physical reality. Another question that we can ask ourselves is, how do I know what is true? After all, it is a valid question. How any one of us know that what we know is the truth? To be honest, we cannot. And it is a direct inquiry into the nature of knowledge and it falls in the category of epistemology. Now you see, when I categorize these questions into different branches of philosophy, then only it becomes academic. Otherwise, these are simple day-to-day questions. And all these examples indicates that philosophy is not a specialization, but it is something foundational. Now friends, whatever we have discussed so far, it is with respect to Western philosophy because it is purely based on reason. But when we look towards Indian philosophy, it is something based on experience. That's why there is no direct equivalent to the word philosophy. The one word that closely translates to philosophy is darshan. And darshan literally means to see or to experience. Therefore, most of the Indian philosophical thoughts are derived from experience. Indian philosophy or darshan has always been about experiencing the reality as it is, and which makes it quite unique as well. And there are many schools of thoughts in Indian philosophy based on how they perceive the reality. We will have a deeper look into the various schools of Indian philosophical systems in our upcoming video. But for now, I need you to understand that there is a philosopher in all of us. If you have ever asked yourself, why me? Then you have already started on the path. And if you have ever sat in silence seeking meaning, then that's you being a philosopher. And as we part away, I would like to remind you that philosophy gave me strength when everything else failed. It helped me reconnect with myself. And that is what I want for you. And that's why I want to bring philosophy to you. And as I take your leave, I want to ask you that, what if you paused and asked, what truly matters to me? I will leave you to this question now and I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care, be happy and remember, Krishnam Sada Sahayate.